Hello, and welcome to this new live stream from Arturia. I'm Sebastien. I'm product manager on MicroFreak, and this is the topic of today's live stream. We announced the version 3 of MicroFreak last week, and so the new firmware. It's so MicroFreak. Just to give you a brief history, MicroFreak was released in January 2019. And since then, we have announced 3 big updates. First one was the version 2, which introduced a new noise oscillator type. Then we did the version 2.1, which had a vocoder. And now we have version 3, which features, among other things, 3 new oscillator modes that were designed in partnership with the Eurorack manufacturer's Noise Engineering from Los Angeles. So all of these updates were free, and you can expect that also in the future. And I would suggest to anyone who has a MicroFreak to go and download this new update because it adds a lot of sound capabilities. The new oscillator modes are really beautiful. So extremely quick overview of MicroFreak because we should go more into the details of the new stuff. MicroFreak is a synthesizer. It is a 4-voice paraphonic synthesizer. It has a digital oscillator, which has multiple oscillator types, as we call them, which give you different synthesis techniques like wavetable, virtual analog, wavefolding, some noise generator, some rhythmic generators. It has an analog filter. Has multiple modulation sources, 2 envelopes, one that can loop, an LFO, a sequencer with a bunch of weird functionalities like the spice and dice to add randomness to your sequence. It has a very nice, small but very nice modulation matrix, and you can create some very complex modulation techniques with MicroFreak. And it has this capacitive keyboard, 2-octave capacitive keyboard with a polyphonic aftertouch. Let's have a brief overview of the new features of version 3, and then I will try to make a quick track with using only the new features and building tracks, everything including drums for you. So the main new element in this update are the 3 oscillator modes. These can be accessed with this knob over here, and they are at the end. Well, the vocoder is the last mode, but then you have the bass synthesis, SOX, and harm. All 3, as I said, were designed by Noise Engineering. And the way we worked with them is that we gave them like total freedom to do oscillator for us. The only constraint is that we have 3 knobs, so they had to design something that works with 3 knobs. But otherwise, they had freedom on the kind of sounds that they wanted to give for us. Bass synthesis uses bass is the name of the engineer who designed the synthesis techniques in the 70s, and it uses some oscillators doing wave folding between them, wave shaping. Maybe we can listen quickly. Take a new preset, bass. So we have a saturate knob. Second knob is wave folding. So you can get some very nice, harsh tones with it. And the third one adds some noise. I can't remember exactly how it's done. I think it's noise in the phase modulation. So this is the first one. Of course, you can play it with the paraphonic mode. The second one is SOX, and it uses sawtooth with some kind of saw mode, which kind of sounds like a sync, oscillator sync, but not exactly. You have a wave shaper. And again, some noise on the third. And I will cover right now another feature. Before I show you the third mode, I will cover another feature, which is the unison. So 4 voices of paraphony, and you can choose to play them all in unison. So shift plus paraphonic to activate paraphonic. So without and with. And I can also set the paraphonic amount by, when I do shift plus paraphonic, I just hold paraphonic, and then I can set the unison spread with this knob. So as you can see, we decided to have a very wide unison detune. You can go all the way to 12 semitones, so 12, 12, 12, 12 with the 4 voices, giving you this huge chord. You can also choose to the amount of voices that are used for unison. So you can limit it to 2 voices, for instance, and this way you can play duophonic, where you have a decay on 2 voices, and then you can play another one. So just utility, preset, unison count, set it to 2, and now I can have two notes that play at the same time, and if I set it to 4, I have more voices at the same time, but only they will steal each other, because we only have 4 voices. Right, the third mode, let's go back to a default preset. The third mode that was designed is the harm mode, and it's kind of additive synthesis. You can choose how you detune the different partials with the first knob. I will set the other ones down. So it can give this kind of organ-ish sound when it's at the maximum. But as soon as you start to use the wave knob, you get all these detuned textures, which can be very interesting. Second knob is rectify. It rectifies the wave, so takes the part that is under 0 and brings it back up, which is kind of a distortion technique. And the third one is noise again. Again, very interesting in paraphonic. You can get some beautiful bass lines with this mode. It has a lot of depth because of all the partials together and the noise on top. So these are the modes. On top of that, we increased the number of preset slots. There used to be 256 available slots for factory and user presets, and we increased to 384. So we added 128 new slots. And we also grew the factory library with 96 new presets, which sound really good in my opinion. Maybe we can play a bunch of them afterwards. A lot of them use the new either the new noise entering oscillators or the unison, so using some of the new functionalities. And you can find them if you go in the MIDI Control Center application, download the new version, you will find them in the list called Factory 3.0, if I'm not mistaken. And you can just load that on your MicroFreak and you'll have all of them. The presets are from the new ones from 208 to 304, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have the vocoder presets at the end because they're a bit particular. Anyway, what I suggest is that I will try to build a track using the new functionalities. So sometimes using some of the presets of the new version, and sometimes just creating my own, especially for drums. So we're gonna start by making a pad sound. When I prepared my demo, I just look for the first preset in the list of the new presets to listen to them, and it was this one, and I loved it immediately, so I just started making a track with it. So it sounds like this. And it uses Unison, and it uses the harm oscillator mode. The LFO does this random modulation on the timbre, so the rectify. And it's very interesting. So what we're going to do, I'm going to set the metronome, move to Ableton, set the metronome, activate record, and record a quick pattern. Right. So this is the first element in the track. MicroFreak is monophonic. Well, no, it's got only a mono output. So because this is a pad, let's add a little bit of delay. So I will look for the delay eternity, one of the delay plugins that we developed, and we're gonna look for presets. Maybe not this. Let's see. Right. Increase the width a bit. Reduce the dry wet. Okay, so. Okay, so we have something a bit wider. Now, what I suggest is that we add some percussion elements to the track. So I'm going to create a new track in Ableton Live, but mainly we're going to focus on the MicroFreak, and I'm going to start with an init preset. So for those who have a MicroFreak, 3 clicks on the preset knob goes back to a default preset. We're going to use the bass, a nice mode. Maybe around here. So I'm going to use the cycling envelope to create an envelope on the pitch. So I'm going to set it to envelope mode, set the decay to be exponential. Again, for those who don't know, Shift plus the full knob gives you all kind of exponentiation of the envelope. Now assign it to the pitch, so cycling envelope to pitch, activate certain amount. All right, now we're going to do something. I like to use this trick. I modulate the cycling envelope with itself to change its shape. So what I do is I assign, so hold assign and turn the full knob, and I will use the cycling envelope to modulate the full time, and we can listen to how it sounds. So the way it works is that it will create a sharper decay at the start, and then the envelope will decay normally. So it's nice on a kick drum because you get this snap at the start, and then you don't get like a straight tone, but you get this kind of decaying pitch, which works really well. So you kind of need to, move between the full time and the amount of modulation to get just the right envelope for the pitch. All right, we're gonna do a pitch, a volume envelope, and maybe for the envelope we can use the same trick. Assign the decay time and set the envelope to modulate itself. Oh, the other way. So you see we're losing some volume because the envelope goes down faster, but we can compensate with the decay knob. And what this gives us is more thump at the start because the envelope is fast, and then it decays slowly. All right, now we can listen to how the oscillator knobs affect the sound. So the first one is saturate. Very nice. Very nice for kick drum. And maybe we can maybe we can use the envelope to modulate that so that we start with a saturated sound at the start and then it comes back not saturated. So I will select envelope to the wave knob. All right, we can try the second one. Fold. So fold is nice also because it gives this this more punch, more harmonics. But as with other distortion mode, it removes a lot of the low end when you put too much. So for a kick drum, maybe we don't want to put too much, or maybe what we can do is we can again use the cycling envelope to add a little bit of wave folding at the start of the kick, and then let it decay more as a clean tone. The third knob is noise. Maybe we don't need noise on a kick drum. All right, we can use the filter also to maybe again to have more of a pure tone at the very end of the sound, but have this this punch at the start. All right, maybe here. All right, maybe we have something nice. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just record a pattern, just real-time record a pattern in Ableton Live, and then I'll use the warping to quantize. So I'm going to record on my track, and then set the metronome, record a pattern. All right, so now let's just stay in Ableton Live for a while. We're gonna solo the kick drum and process it slightly, because you know when you design drums with the synthesizer, well, in my opinion, you need to add a few layers of processing to get just the sound that you need. So in my case, what I really like to use is the 1973 pre, which is a preamp emulation that we did. And it has a very beautiful EQ that works very. I love how it works on drums. I mean, I like how it removes some frequencies without coloring the sound too much. So in this case, first let's quantize. Let's quantize the kick. Perfect. So now we're going to remove some of the low end with the high pass and compensate with some low end by boosting the frequency. So we're increasing more of the boom of the kick, but not leaving the very low end. Also, the medium is there's a bit too much medium compared to the kick drum. So we're gonna remove some of it. All right. Already it feels nicer, more like a kick drum. You can probably boost the high frequency to have more snap at the start. Right, now let's add a compressor. I think I always use an EQ and a compressor on my kick drum. So set the threshold, compression. A bit of attack. More like this, and increase the volume. All right. maybe boost the low end a little bit again. Right. So now we're gonna do a snare drum. So for my snare drum, what I like to do when I design drum sounds with synthesizer is to split it in two parts. One which is more of a tone or a clap sound, and the other one which is more the noise part of the sound. So first, I think we're going to do something a bit glitchy, glitchy. So let's start with a default patch again. Create a new track, arm it. Okay. So we're going to use the harm oscillator. Set it back here. And so we're working on the body of the snare. And I'm going to use the cycling envelope as a looping envelope to create some kind of a rattling sound, maybe more like a clap. So we're going to apply this to pitch first. Let's straight remove the decay of the VCA, because we're just going to be working on a short sound, and maybe set the filter to high pass. Let's try to find something that sounds nice. Then we can play with different knobs to get a different flavor. Maybe we can use the same cycling envelope to modulate the oscillator parameters to get a different texture. Okay, maybe we have something that's a bit like a clap here. We can try to modulate the filter as well. Again with the same envelope, maybe adding some resonance. Yeah. And maybe because this is a bit too clean, I can use an LFO. I can use an LFO to change the rate of the cycling envelope so that the rattles is a bit different every time. So we're going to set it to random, just 1/4, and assign the LFO. So hold the sign, move the cycling envelope full knob, this, and then just set LFO to this destination. So this is too much. I'm going to take it down a bit. All right. All right. So now we have something that sounds a bit like a clappy sound. So I'm going to use the sequencer to write a pattern, the internal sequencer of MicroFreak to write a pattern. So to do that, I just hold Shift plus ARP, which puts me in sequencer mode. I'm going to just step record. So hold record, and then I'm going to enter silences and notes. So silences with high and notes here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Simple snare pattern. All right, let's record that. There we go. did I get it all the way? 16th of length. Yes. Right. So now that we have this this snap, just a little bit of processing, enable tone. So go back to my 1973 pre. Just remove some of the low end from that sound because yeah, we have a lot of room for the kick drum. Maybe add a little bit of snap. Maybe boost the medium frequencies. Not too much. Yeah, right here. All right, so it sounds very boring on its own. Let's add another layer. I'm gonna rename. So this is pad. This is kick. This is snap, and now we're gonna do snare. So for the snare, again, I'm gonna go back to default preset. We're not gonna use the new oscillators. We're gonna use the noise oscillator, which was released on version 2. So on my track, this is how it sounds. It's a mix of, you get a tone, you get a tone section and a noise section. So you always hear the noise section, and you can choose to remove the tone section. Right now I only have the noise, and you can see we have you can move from different types of noise. So at the very end, it's kind of particle noise, kind of grainy. Then it becomes white noise. Then more metallic noise, so a bunch of square waves, all ring mod together. And then more of a cymbal with just 2 tones. So in our case, we're gonna go for some white noise. The second knob lets you reduce the sample frequency of the noise. So it's a kind of decimate. Very interesting. Maybe we can play with that afterwards while we record. I pass, set an envelope. Maybe because we want this kind of snappy sound, we're going to use the same technique, assign the decay, and use the envelope to modulate its decay. All right. All right, so we have something. Again, I'm going to do a quick sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, tack. Tack. All right. All right, let's record that. Jam a bit on the knobs. Perfect. So now if we listen just to the 2 snares together, we have this. Let's add a bit of K here. I don't know why I have this. There we go. There we go. So I have this noise. Maybe we can add a little bit of reverb to it. So I already set reverb intensity, another plugin that we did. Maybe we can make it bigger. On my send bus, and I can send it right to it. All right. Now let's move on to something else. We're gonna do hi-hats. So again, here I'm doing. I mean, I wanted to show how you can quickly do percussion sounds with a synthesizer like this. I find it very interesting as a way to, create more evolving percussions. Yeah, you just, find a sound, create a sound that you like, or use one of the presets, and then just move the knobs a little bit so you have variations on each of the hits. And because you have all the controls on the oscillator, the filter, the envelopes, and the modulation matrix, you can really get some, you know, some interesting evolutions, like lots of flexibility. So for the hi-hats, I guess we're gonna do 2 layers of hi-hats. One that is more like a constant hi-hat, and another one which is more of a zap sound. We're gonna try and do a zap sound with the harm oscillator mode. So I'm gonna harm a track. Okay, getting some. Check. Getting some noise, maybe too much gain. Anyway, so to do this zap sound, I go back from a default preset. All right, I'm going to select the harm mode. I wanted to use the harm mode because for the zap, because we have this the way the harmonics move together, and I think we can use that with an envelope, with a sharp envelope, to create this kind of zap effect. So I'm going to tweak my envelope, create a sharp decaying envelope on the cycling envelope, set the amount as maximum, and we can assign it to the wave and see how it sounds. So we want something that is quite short. We're going to modulate the pitch as well. So already we're getting somewhere. I still don't really like the fact that it ends with a tone. That's not really what we want. So maybe we can use the filter. We can use the filter to kill the end of this sound. Right. So now, and same technique again on the envelope. If you want it to be sharper, which sounds really nice on a zap sound, assign to the full time, and then use the cycling envelope on itself with a negative amount. Great also to do just kick drums, like cleaner kick drums. But in our case, we want to do zaps. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to Ableton Live and again put my processing chain. So we want this to be more of a hi-hat. We're gonna remove all the low end, all of it, and maybe even some of the mid-range, and really focus just on this kind of, maybe not so much medium. All right, and so now we have something. Maybe a little bit of reverb, not too much, because otherwise it kind of. All right. What I'm gonna do, again, we can use some modulation. We can use some modulation on the decay time, so that the zap is not always the same. So I already assigned my full time here of the cycling envelope. So I'm gonna use the LFO, and so we get different types of zap. I'm gonna make it faster. So not that much, of course. All right. So let's record something. Let's record a pattern. So maybe I'm just gonna record in Ableton Live and quantize it afterwards. So just arm record, and then I'm gonna write a pattern. All right. I didn't really like the beginning. I'm just gonna keep this section over here. Right. So not too many, of course. We are gonna have another layer of hi-hat. So this is more just to add a little bit of variation on the percussion. Maybe we can add some delay as a way to double the zap to give it more of a stereo effect. I think I had voice doubler. I think I was using this preset. Right. So it kind of adds some movement on the left and right. All right. Reduce the volume a little bit. Okay, so now we have another element. Let's move to the second layer of hi-hats. So to do that, like I showed you, I'm going to go back to default preset. So I say we have this metallic noise. Yes, I need to create a track, arm it. Metallic noise, which works really great to do a hi-hat. Well, it was kind of designed for that, but this was version 2 of MicroFreak. We're gonna use some of the new oscillator types to do percussions. So I'm gonna use the SO-X. I haven't used it yet. So this is I'm using the arpeggiator right now. So we have this, and we're gonna use the same trick of using the cycling envelope really fast as a way to do well, kind of FM, but not only on the pitch, but also on the different oscillator controls. So let's try that. I'm just gonna set it. Sorry. So cycling envelope, looping very fast, and let's first assign it to the pitch. We can assign it also to the other knobs, maybe the wave knob. Let's see what we can find. Maybe the other way around, so increase the shape and reduce the amount of cycling envelope. Maybe we can try with the cutoff as well. Maybe we're losing too much here. Has to remain, more in the high frequencies. Let's try with paraphonic. Yeah, no, not that great. On noise, using Unison on noise, it doesn't give as much of a convincing effect. So anyway, let's set a very, very sharp sound. Okay. Forgot to quantize my zaps. Let's see, up. All right, so we're gonna record these fast hats. One. All right, now we have something playing. A bit of a reverb, and again, because we're doing hi-hats, we need to get rid of some of the low frequencies a little bit. So same technique, just remove the low end with the 1973 pre. I'm gonna remove a lot and just focus on the high frequencies here. This is yeah, that's right. And maybe we can add a compressor as well. Compressor, so we only keep kind of the snap at the start of the, or at least we focus on the snap at the start of the hi-hat. Again, you know, because we're designing drums, you know, it takes a little bit of processing, so so bear with me. Reduce the threshold a lot, compress a lot. Let's just get the attack coming through, and not the decay. Yeah, so it's a bit subtle, but we're still getting, you know, more of the attack, creating a sharper sound. It's very subtle, I agree. All right, so maybe we've done enough percussion. So this is our percussion layer. Of course, all done with MicroFreak. All right, so now maybe we should listen to a bunch of presets from the new update. So I'm gonna just set a new track, and we can start listening to some of them. I don't know. Oh, this one is nice. It uses the pressure on the wave oscillator, and we're using the harm oscillator. So, like I showed you, it's additive, and with the pressure, it seems to go from this to the octave, and it's a great example of how you can do polyphonic aftertouch with a. Let's see. There's a lot of very nice bass patches in the update. I don't know if some of you listened to. This is done with the bass engine, the same one we used for the kick. Some more percussion. Right. This is nice. Some nice sound effect. Some FM. Yeah, these are nice sound effects. Whoa. Oh, we could have used this kick. It's better than my kick. It's called Percussion kick. Right. Yeah. Just. Oh, I like this one. I think I saw it. It's a bass line. Yeah. A lot of bass in this small things. Another kick, it seems. Yeah. This one was nice. This uses also the bass synthesis, cryo core. This is with the harm. this is cool. Anyway, I mean, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the presets. Oh, this is nice. This is a nice example of. So MicroFreak is paraphonic. So anytime you play a new note, the filter envelope will retrigger. So it opens the filter again, which is, well, in a way it's a bit of a limitation of paraphonic compared to polyphonic, where you have one filter for each voice. But you can do some very beautiful things because it every note it will. Every note you will still hear the filter opening on the older notes. So. Sorry. All right. So. Where were we? Right. So let's look for a bass sound. I remember I was using this one. So it uses the harm oscillator. It has a lot of noise. Let's use that. And what we're going to do, we're going to look for the old trusty OTT. So for those who are not familiar with OTT, it's a multi-band compressor preset in Ableton Live, which is it adds. It lifts up all the low sound and it reduces all the high sound. Well, it kind of shrinks everything in terms of dynamics, and it sounds wonderful on a lot of sounds. I would suggest you to use it. So when you use a hardware synth, it's best to put a gate at the start of your before the OTT, because it has the effect of significantly increasing the noise. So sometimes it's wanted, but because all hardware synths have some noise in them, using a gate is a way to get rid of it. Anyway, maybe that's too much. So if we listen without, see, it's kind of boosting some of the higher mid and high frequencies. What I'm going to do as well is, because this is a kind of a long tone, we're gonna use a compressor to sidechain the bass with my kick drum. So I'm gonna look for my kick track. Okay, so let's listen again with this. All right, so we're gonna real-time record a bass line into this. Let me rename. So this is dap, the next track is hats, and this is bass. So So this patch also uses the Unison. This is without, and this is with Unison. Quite subtle, but it kind of thickens the sound again. All right, so let's listen to what we have. All right, so because we added the bass, which takes a lot of place in the spectrum, it feels a bit too much with the first sound that we did, the kind of pad. So we can do two things, I guess. First, we can also process it and just get rid of some of the low end. Maybe boost some of the yes, so it will leave more room in the lower spectrum for the bass and the kick. And also, what I could do is maybe record another pattern. It was the first preset, yes. Record another pattern which has fewer notes, so we leave more room for the bass. So let's do that. All right, so I mean, it's been 54 minutes. We already have something. Maybe one last thing I wanted to show you, which is something very particular with MicroFreak. So some of you probably have tested that already, those who have MicroFreak. But let me show you, and it's modulating the oscillator types with modulators. So as you probably know, we've used some of the oscillator modes from the Mutable Instruments Platts Eurorack module. And this trick of modulating the engine with a external CV source is what it was in Braid before that and in Platts afterwards. And it's a very interesting trick, and it's really nice to have it also on MicroFreak. So let's try to do that very briefly, just to add a little layer of textures on the track that we have, just like kind of random weird percussions. Because we're going to randomly modulate the oscillators, we can't really predict what we're going to get. So, new preset. I'm going to just set the type knob kind of in between. I think we have 16 oscillator types now, so I'm going to set it to 8. And then we're going to use an LFO to add modulation to it. So I'm going to use a random LFO and assign to type and use this LFO on my type. So without modulation, we have the chord mode, and I'm going to, oh, sorry about that. All right, so we just want this to create kind of top high percussion sound. So I'm going to set the filter to high pass and probably very high. Kind of something like that. Maybe we can straight add a little bit of reverb and probably some delay as well. Let's see, I'm going to use the same patch I used, like it was distant echoes. So, all right, we're gonna use the arpeggiator and do a fast. All right, so now we're gonna use the same trick of doing FM with the cycling envelope. So I'm gonna. I think it's a very efficient trick when you do kind of glitchy percussions, because it can run really fast. It's easy to modulate the attack, the release, and change the shapes, and you can really get some, lots of different FM effects. Now it's not really FM. We're not going to modulate just the pitch. We can also modulate the oscillator knobs. So let's do that. We have our cycling envelope. Let's listen. So straight. Let's directly use it on the pitch. Maybe too much delay. All right, I'm gonna modulate the wave as well. Modulate the timbre, why not? We can modulate the cutoff. We can use the LFO, this random LFO that we've done to modulate the decay time to create different FM. So in the end, we're not gonna play it all the time, but just add little bits of percussions like this. What else could we do? Let's see. We can in that case because we're gonna play. We can use the pressure. We can use the pressure maybe on some of these parameters like this. So as you can see, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just randomly adding some modulations, and because we're trying to do random percussions. All right, I'm gonna use the spice and dice. So for those who don't know, it's a way to randomize the gate sequence in the arpeggiator. So it can create shorter notes or longer notes, or create silence or ties. So it won't have a huge effect because everything is already kind of messy, but just as a way to create, it kind of creates silences and very short notes. All right, so we're gonna get rid of the pad. I'm gonna arm record, and then I'm gonna just play with the arpeggiator some notes to add some percussions. All right, that's enough. So I guess we'll stop here. Let's just listen again to what we had. So we're starting without the bass. We have this. We can add our layer of small percussions. All right, remove the pad and add the bass. And we had our variation on the pad. All right, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed. I mean, for me, it was fun to, as an exercise to just do everything with MicroFreak, and I absolutely love this new update. I think the 3 oscillator types are extremely flexible for like very calm melodic sounds or harsher sounds or percussions, and I'm very happy that we did this work with noise engineering. They were amazing people to work with, and it turned out great. And it's also an opportunity for me to thank the the development team on MicroFreak, which again we're very, very good on this update. So thank you to the developers and the test team and all the marketing for the videos and everything. So that's it. I guess there may be a few questions, so I'm gonna look over here for the questions. There we go. All right, so new oscillators sound fantastic. Thank you. Since the vocoder processes audio in, is there a chance in future of using audio in as an oscillator type? I don't know. We tried it and we didn't get that convincing results. With a vocoder, you don't need. It was kind of an extra feature that we managed to add on version 2. It was not something that was entirely planned from the start. So it uses the headphone connector to do a microphone input as well. So we just tried to see what we could do, and we got interesting results as a vocoder because you don't need as much of a quality of the incoming signal. But for audio in, we'd need something that sound, sufficiently clean, and we didn't manage to get that level of quality. So I mean, if we do something, I mean, it would be something more, weird, kind of weird glitchy on the audio in, but not just like processing it through the filter with expecting a clean sound, I guess. Question 2. Request. It would be very useful to be able to sort the preset by types in the Freak. Yes, it's true. It's true. Let's say that when we launched it, it was not that long ago, just 2 years ago, and we had 128 presets, and everything was fine with 128 presets. Just this preset knob. It was quick to browse. Now we're getting to 320 factory presets in the new factory bank. So yeah, it would be nice if we can figure out a way to sort the preset by types. Yes. Question 3: is there anything MicroFreak can do that Pigments can't, or shouldn't I compare them? So Pigments is a software instrument that we released about 2 years ago as well. That is a big synthesizer with wavetable analog sample engine. Is there anything MicroFreak can do that Pigments can't? So there's something about the simplicity of the oscillator. How you can just, like let's say that you're not extremely familiar with synthesis. You can navigate different synthesis modes like waveshaper, virtual analog, wavefolding, FM, wavetable, and then you only have 3 knobs. So in a way, it's limiting, but it's also a way to, to get only sweet spots. We made sure that the 3 knobs give you the wide enough and interesting, sound palette that you can get. So I find this very powerful in the simplicity of the interface. That when I want to create some sounds, as you could see, I just go to a new preset and just start messing around, and very quickly you have interesting results. And I'm not saying you can't have that with Pigments, but because there's a lot more features, then it takes maybe a little bit more getting used to. Otherwise, the Spice and Dice are a bit unique to MicroFreak. I'm trying to think. Well, the cycling envelope, you probably can't do exactly what you probably can't do exactly that in Pigments. But no, I mean a lot of the functionalities of MicroFreak are you can find them in Pigments. Question 4: what kind of sorcery did you make on the MicroFreak so we can have more preset slots? So it's 2 things. One, we had some room for more presets since the beginning, but we didn't really know how MicroFreak was going to evolve. What new oscillator types we wanted to put, what new features. So we felt it was better to leave some headroom and so that we can, we're not forced to, we're not constrained by something. So now that we have all these features, and we figured we could use this extra room to make room for new presets. And also Olivier, the firmware developer on MicroFreak, just figured out a way to reduce the memory of each preset, so we had more room. I'm curious if there's anything that can be done on the user side to overcome grounding issues with the keypad when powered over USB. No, the thing is that the grounding issue is due to the technology. So for those who don't know, sometimes depending on the computer, with some computers it works perfect, but with others, and depending on your setup as well, you can get erratic effects on the touch sensors. And all of these go away once you use the DC connector, which is supplied, because we added a power supply which also has a ground, so that when we connect it, we can remove it from the USB. I mean, it's a bit technical, but in a way, use the DC power if you have problem in your setup, because we couldn't find a way to have it work every time. But you have a solution with the DC power. Do you know how I can get a balance of intelligible and robotic sound out of the vocoder? I haven't really worked on the vocoder version, so I'm not too familiar with it. I know that some of the features, so utility preset, then you have vocoder hiss mode and vocoder hiss volume. And these functions let you choose. So hiss is this side of the sound, and in vocoders in the past, what it does is that it detects if it's more of a tone or if it's more of a hiss, and it processes it differently. It processes the tone with the kind of vocodery sound that we know, and the hiss, usually it's done with a white noise, or you can just pass the audio through. And in MicroFreak, you have these modes. You can turn off the hiss mode, in which case you're going to get kind of a dull sound with no noise, or switched, which kind of switches between tone and noise, or pass, where the hiss, the high frequencies, just pass through. And it's a good way. And you also have the hiss volume, which can increase this effect, and it really adds a lot to how intelligible the voice can be. So yeah, these are the two things, and I know that Michel, one of the members of the team, made a track using the vocoder, and what he did was layer the dry voice with the vocoder, but just a little bit of the dry voice, but it really helps the brain to understand the vowels. Hi Seb. Hi. Any suggestion on how to make lively self-generative patches on the MicroFreak? Great questions. Great question. So, in the way I imagine self-generative, so self-generative is a way to do patches that kind of evolve over time without the user controlling anything, and the sound just kind of goes away and does weird stuff. Usually these patches, like the Krell patch, for instance, work by kind of like one modulator modulates another one, and this modulator modulates the first one. And this is done in terms of like the rate. For instance, you could have like a random source that modulates the rate of an LFO, and it's also done in the triggers, so that when when your LFO it resets your envelopes and things like that. And it's a nice way to have very weird rhythmic tones. So in our case, I would say that because we only have the LFO to do one random source, and the LFO can't be retriggered by the sampling envelope, you can get kind of weird generative patches, but more by playing them, in a sense, by using for instance, using the pressure to add another layer of randomness. But if we do something just very simple, cycling envelope on the pitch, it's kind of what oh yes, sorry, Ableton Live, create another track, Armory Core, no need to show it. So this, you can use a random LFO and assign the full time, and then use the LFO on the full. So you can kind of get this kind of effect, and for instance, we could modulate the LFO rate, so assign LFO rate and use the pressure on the LFO rate, so that when I use my finger, I'm gonna get more of an effect, and we can use the pressure on the cutoff as well, increasing maybe with a high pass like this. And of course, so now we're using the cycling envelope on the pitch. But this technique I was showing you by modulating the type, and maybe using this LFO to modulate the type, and then using the cycling envelope to modulate not just the pitch but also the oscillator parameters, you can get. So I mean, I see what you can imagine by generative patches, and it's not exactly that, but in a way you can get these kind of sounds with MicroFreak. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Cool. Wondering about MIDI 2.0, MP, and the MicroFreak. Any plans for the future? I don't know. I don't really have anything to comment on that. We have polyphonic aftertouch in MicroFreak, and you can already use it to modulate a lot of the things. So we haven't really thought about MPE or anything extra to do on that. But I mean, it's an interesting topic. Request. Control over the LFO start phase would be handy, as well as bipolar or unipolar switch for the LFO waveform. It's true. So these are interesting features. There's already a lot of features that are in utility preset. These are some of the features. Some of them were here from the start, and some of them we added down the way. And because we have a display, I prefer to put the features here, because doing key combinations that are not still screened, at some point you really can't remember what all the features are. So it would be some more features to put in this utility preset section. And I'm not saying we can't do it, but there's a limit to how many settings we're going to have until it becomes too hard to remember what's there. So we already have LFO retrig, but the phase always retrigs at 0, and the LFO is always bipolar. Does Unison works with the sequencer? No, unfortunately it doesn't. Let me explain the story of that. So we decided to do version 3, and mainly it was the oscillator modes. And we wanted to have a Unison mode, but we really couldn't find a way to do it very fast, and we didn't have a lot of time on this update. So we figured out a trick where the Unison is actually made by, it's kind of a fake chord mode. So we already had the chord mode, prophonic, enter some notes, and in a way it's kind of a chord mode where the frequency of each voice is very close to each other, or at least it's defined by the Unison thread. And the chord mode doesn't apply to the sequencer. The sequencer is polyphonic. The chord mode is, you can't just add polyphony. So we decided that the chord mode would be for what you play with the keys on top, and that the sequencer would not take the chord mode. So when we did the Unison, we had the same limitation. We're going to see if we can update it in the future. But for now, this is how it is. It works with the arpeggiator, and it works with the keyboard playing, but it doesn't work on the output of the sequencer. Request. Which it was easier to enter tied notes for glides, etc. Like just manually set the gate time of the previous step to overlast the next note. I mean, let me just show everyone how it's done right now. So on the arpeggiator, press record. No, I'm in play mode. Press record. So if I want to do, if I just do like this, we're gonna get all the notes. But if I use the hold button at the same time as I play, the taps I press on the whole knob are going to be just extension side notes of a number of steps. So if I do tap 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 tap, so in a way, I would argue that it's quite easy to create longer notes and ties. You know, probably even faster than actually using a knob to get to the right value. Now, whether we could do it, I mean, technically with the way the sequencer is done, it's probably not an easy task, but it could be doable, I guess. But I haven't planned it for now. Other types of oscillators already in the works? Yes, but I won't tell you more. But it's going to be great. Will there be something like MicroFreak? I will not answer this question. I would love. I think there's a lot of things that we could grow to make it bigger. If you have any ideas on how to make a bigger MicroFreak, whether it's called MicroFreak or anything else, then send it to us. You know, share them on Facebook or send them, you know, to our support team, and they'll redirect them to me. It's very interesting to get feedback from people who use MicroFreak on what they would love in a bigger one. Question 14. I heard that the output level of MicroFreak was quite low compared to other synths. Is it fixable with a firmware update? So yes, it's quite low. No, it's not fixable. It's hardware. In utility preset, you have preset volume, and you can increase it. So it's, you know, maybe if you find it too low, you can increase it. The reason why it's low is because it uses a 5-volt power supply, which is a way to get USB power on the MicroFreak. And we felt like it was nice to have, you know, that you can use a battery pack and your MicroFreak and just go and jam somewhere because it's so portable. So I mean, this was this was kind of a design choice, and it limits the headroom that we can have. So it's low compared to other synths, but I mean, it's totally usable. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, I had my gain quite up. I had the pad as well on the Audifuse Studio, but I had the gain quite up. And I mean, at the end, when we mix all the tracks, there's not like a huge background noise effect or anything. Question 15, can MicroFreak be used to replace a MIDI input keyboard? So if the question is, can you use MicroFreak as a MIDI keyboard? The answer is yes. You can use it via USB or via the MIDI output at the back. You can also take an external MIDI keyboard and connect it to MicroFreak. You know, maybe you want to play with more octaves, or maybe, you know, when you want to play chords, it's not the touch sensor is not maybe the best interface. If you're familiar with the piano, it's easier to put your hands on a piano. So you can do both. Question 16. Awesome sounds, man. Very inspiring. Makes me motivated to spend more time with mine. Sebastien, you took us into Aphex Twin territory. Well, this is a very nice comment. Thanks a lot, whoever put question 16. I mean, it's also something I wanted to show us how, you know, maybe there are ways to use the MicroFreak that you really haven't thought about. You know, just going back to a default preset and, okay, so how's the kick drum made? So it's an envelope on the pitch. So let's put an envelope on the pitch. And let's try with different oscillators how, you know, a kick drum inspired sound can sound with the different types. There's, I don't know. I love the balance of, you know, how deep you can go with sound, especially because of the oscillator and the modulation matrix. And at the same time, how everything is just right in front of me and so easy to manipulate. I think it's, you know, it's one of the, you know, instruments I like the most in this price point to design sounds like this. So thank you, man. And questions 17, 18, 19, and 20 are blank. So we're done. Thank you for watching with me. Yes, I just said it. I love this instrument. I'm very happy that we managed to find interesting ways to update it over time, you know, to add exciting features. Again, I'm going to thank Noise Engineering for this, you know, where they brought us in this newest update. And stay tuned for the future. And see you next time. Bye. And maybe I can play a few patches.